that's when I started to go into labor. And so there's this thing they have with the contraction monitors. And what I think is interesting, and this I think is just probably indicative of just Black women, I never felt the contractions. They kept saying, you're contracting. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? I'm like, no. I was like, and it was in my head. I'm like, am I this out of tune with my body? Like, what is happening? Now, once I got to 8.5 centimeters, that was the very first contraction I felt.
Okay.
So that whole time, I never got an epidural or anything, but it wasn't because I was trying not to. I mean, I was trying to get an epidural my entire pregnancy. It just, I didn't feel the contraction. So at 8.5, I'm like, I think I felt it. And I felt all I needed to feel, but like the epidural now. And they were trying to convince me not to get the epidural. They were like, you're so close. I'm like, I would like an epidural. So we get into Monday morning. I have the epidural. And the doctor comes in and is like, you've been in here too long, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we're going to start getting this baby out. So I didn't know anything about like labor down and like all of those things. I immediately go, they're trying to get me to push. Mark's holding my legs. The other nurse is holding the leg. They're trying to get me to push. And Mark gets stuck. So he gets stuck in the birth canal. He poops in the birth canal. He flips. He does team too much. He flips in the birth canal. My epidural runs out. And I'm like looking at husband Mark, and I'm like, I cannot do this. I can't do it. And I don't think I started crying, but I was just like, he saw, I was tired. I was exhausted. He saw me and he was like, we got to do something different. So they literally said, let's take a break from labor. Let's try to just do a reset. We're going to do like a 30-minute. And just think about that, where I tell people that story, they're like, they did what? They didn't try to move to a C-section, whatever. No. And so I'm now still in labor, wombs open, all the things. We take a break. I don't even know what, that's not a thing that you're supposed to do.
You don't even know how that's impacting your baby.
Oh, right. Or Black Maternal Health, or me.
Yeah.
Then they say, okay, his head, the way it is, we can do two things. We can do forceps or we can do a C-section. And everybody tells you to try not to get a C-section. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what forceps were.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, okay, we just try forceps. And then they bring the things in there. And I was like, oh, there's no turning back. But they get Mark out. Because he pooped in the birth canal, he had to have a respiratory thing. My husband really thought something was wrong with him. It was a delay in crying. They rushed, and I told him, go with Mark. Mm-hmm. And so they rushed Mark. They kept him in the room, but they were doing all the things to check on him. And then with me, it was, there was a lot going on, but I didn't understand it. Mm-hmm. And I ended up, and the same thing happened with my daughter, I hemorrhaged. And I was hemorrhaging. And you can think about what I just said about, being in labor 4 days, having to take a break in the middle of labor.
I didn't even know that was an option.
It doesn't even sound logical, right? That would be an option. Yeah. I'm hemorrhaging. I end up having blood transfusions. I had a 3rd-degree tear. I ended up developing sciatica out of that. And I was also and I'm sure everybody has it, but I was mentally and emotionally traumatized by that experience.